CEO de Mobile Moxie. Nos la robamos un segundo aquí en el Web Congress para hablar un poco con ella del tema de mercadeo digital, de mercadeo de móviles, de Big Data. Así que, welcome. Thank you for having us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Andrés. First question.
So what is Mobile Moxie?
So Mobile Moxie is my company. We're a consulting company focusing on mobile SEO and mobile marketing. And I get to work with lots of cool companies like MTV and eBay and stuff like that. And we also have a mobile marketing tool set, one of the first online mobile marketing tools that people can subscribe to and use to do lots of things for mobile.
To get their metrics and to see how...
A little bit metrics, but it's mostly, the most popular tool is choose 3 phones and either preview your page on 3 different phones or preview search results on 3 different phones, because my background is SEO and search results change from phone to phone. Most people don't realize it. They change from desktop to phone, but they also change from phone to phone.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
You said something that baffled me in your presentation. You started doing this before mobile was cool.
Yes, I was talking about mobile SEO when everyone was still on like Blackberries and really bad smartphones that would now not be considered smartphones. So I was doing mobile SEO before the iPhone was a thing. Yeah, because it was such a bad experience. Early mobile web was horrible, and early mobile search was even worse.
Okay, so you talked today about the future of mobile. Can you give us a summary?
So getting mobile right in the future is not going to be about addressing one specific device like Google Glass or the watches or anything like that. It's about getting everything right and tying it all together in a seamless way that's great for customers and it gives people immediate information when they need it. And so I talked about that, and then I focused a little bit too on big data, because I think that's the other side of mobile. When you think about the future, it's not about specific technology, but it's about the philosophy of making everything work together and then collecting as much information as you can from all the different devices people are using to interact with your brand and tying it together to give them the best experience possible.
I heard three topics in your presentation. One was big data. But you also talked about the Internet of Things, and you also talked about, I forgot the Internet of Things and big data and user experience.
User experience. So,
got it.
Internet of Things.
So the Internet of Things. So you have to, before you get to big data, you have to understand the Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things is basically this concept that more and more things are becoming web-enabled, right? It's not just our phones and our tablets, it's also TVs and cars and watches and fitness trackers and stuff. But beyond that, it's not just the things that we own, but buildings are becoming smart. Every information that has been tracked is now going on the web, so like buildings know how to optimize their own power or water use, and that data can be passed on to other things, and things can now talk to each other, and people aren't necessarily important anymore in some of those interactions, right? Things can talk to each other, and we don't have to get in the way.
This is need to teach those things how to react to certain conditions, right? If this then that, right?
Yeah, if this then that, yeah. But with everyone walking around with things that are web-enabled or have sensors like RFID and NFC, and then we're all walking around with our phones that can interact with those sensors. The buildings get smarter, they can interact with us if they need to, or interact with other things, and we just have to set up the marketing rules. Like if you walk into perhaps a store and your phone knows that you're walking into the store, either based on your location or based on something like an ultrasonic sound transmitter that they're doing with the shop kit. Yeah. So then they can send you the right coupon. But if they know that yesterday you searched for something that they sell, and today you walk in the store, they send you the coupon or they tell you what aisle it's in.
We saw an interesting example from the people at Intel last year in San Francisco. And what they showed was you go in and there are all the offers, but then when you walk towards the offer, it turns red and says, hey, don't buy this. Remember that your kid is allergic to peanut and these has peanut. So it was very, very cool. You said something that I think most of the people don't understand is even if you today don't have a use for the information, start collecting.
Start tracking it now, even if you don't know what you're going to do with it, because you'll figure it out later.
Yeah. And then there's this discussion about tracking information and privacy.
I know, and I know, like, for a marketer, I don't care about privacy. I want all your data. But, you know, as a person, when I take off my marketer hat, I care about privacy. What's important in big data is that there's so much information that the individual person's data is, it's relevant only for individual marketing, but it's more interesting when it's aggregated and made anonymous, right? When we take, let's say, like the Google example that I give, where Google search queries were tracked to show the spread of the flu virus because people were searching for their symptoms, and so Google knew before the doctors when and where the flu virus was spreading. So Google did that, and no one worried about privacy. Or maybe they did, but it wasn't as vocal. It wasn't as cool as the result, right? The slight concern about privacy.
Offsets.
Yeah, and you know, there are laws in place, and I think the laws are going to have to evolve to protect privacy more, a little bit. But making the data anonymous makes it and aggregate fascinating.
Latin America.
Lovely.
I was gonna ask a question, and it's about Latin America. And we didn't talk about user experience, but one thing that we in Latin America have is that we always get a crappy user experience. We are late adopters in Latin America, not because we want to be, but because, you know, the technology moves in developed countries first, and then it comes down to us. And so we have a pervasive, crappy user experience. So what do you think you can do with mobile to make it better?
So you have to think of it in a more positive way. Latin Americans are just more patient.
No, I'm not patient. I'm an early adopter. I'm not patient. I can't deal with that.
Okay, so the good news is that because you weren't early adopters in Latin America necessarily, you guys can skip some of the steps that we struggled with in other countries, where right now, especially, Google says that they prefer responsive design, and that it's harder for them to crawl and index mobile pages and desktop pages. So if you're an early adopter, you can skip all that mess of having to manage two different sites and make them work, and go directly to responsive design, and that gets you a good experience on the mobiles, the tablets, and computers, as well as the web TVs, and like sometimes
Different sizes, different
whatever,
screens.
anything, yeah. And it makes you get to skip all those steps, and it's much easier to manage a responsive design site than it is to manage multiple pages.
True. You're based in the US, most of your customers are US based?
Most of my customers right now are US based, but I do travel a lot, and I love international customers, and I've had many international customers. So.
And are you seeing rising interest in Latin America for your services?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the concept of skipping the mobile site and going straight to responsive design. I have my big US customers, a lot of them are doing that right now. They're switching from MDOT sites to responsive design sites. So it's just a theme everywhere right now that everyone really cares about how to do that right.
Quick question. HTML5 or an app?
Oh, I have always said go straight to the web, because apps are operating OS specific, and so that's limiting. But if you go to the web, all the phones can handle web. So if you're limited on budget, I say start on the web, and then if you have budget and you want an app, then go to Android first, and then iOS last. Yeah.
Why Android first? That's a first.
Well, because Android has more market share. It's just numbers. Android has more market share.
But Android users don't use the services as much as iOS.
That's because it's a bad user experience. But if you do a good user experience and make sure that your app is only allowed to be loaded on phones where it'll work, then it's better. But you also have to do a lot of support for your app, which means it's a product just like anything else. You can't just build it and walk away from it. You have to market it like it's a product, so you need to be mentioning it in your email list, be mentioning it and really promoting it on your website, in your social media. and be getting good reviews. That's the biggest struggle that I know app developers have, is getting good reviews. So yeah, especially in Latin America, the percentage of Android users is even higher.
True.
So I would start there, really.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.